Hi everyone, and welcome to another Radults Bite, a short-form version of the Radults podcast that's published outside of our usual schedule to take the edge off your hunger for more inspiration.
Today's guest is Nate Young, drummer for much-beloved Floridian rockers Anberlin, who will be heading to Australia to play their first run of dates outside of their hometown in over 5 years in late May. Before walking away amicably in 2014, Anberlin had sold over 1 million records across the globe, acquiring a devout worldwide fan base that hung on every note of each of their 7 studio albums and stellar live performances. As a founding member and primary creative force of Anberlin, Nate was there for every moment. Nate Young is a Radult, and he is today's guest on the Radults podcast.
Thanks for joining us on the Radults podcast.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now, you are about to pop down to Australia for a string of shows, your first outside of your hometown in over 5 years. Why Australia?
Yeah.
Why now? And are you feeling energized?
I am. All the above. For us, it hit that spot where as far as the now, we didn't really have like a plan for this. We kind of like rekindled, we reconnected. And it just kind of was something that got brought up, and it was just one of those things where we just decided that it would be something rad. So that was kind of the overall gist of that as far as the now. So Australia for us, I mean, at this point, I think we figured out this will be our 14th time back. And honestly, it's just because we love it there. I mean, those shows are some of the best ones that stick out in our memory is just some of the greatest shows that we've ever had. So when this kind of conversation came about playing shows and kind of, regrouping for a bit, Australia was kind of the no-brainer for us. So.
Now, this tour is going to feature you playing songs from Never Take Friendship Personal and Cities, which are 2 records that hold a special place with your fan base. As one of the creative forces behind those records, why do you think it is that those 2 records are the ones that have connected?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think at the time that those records came out, not to make it sound like we're some groundbreaking band, but I think it was just unique. I think it was a kind of a different sound of the time. I think that's one thing that we've always care deeply about, is not pulling from one source. And so for both of those records, we kind of pushed ourselves in a lot of different directions, tried to kind of mix genres and not really have constraints or anything to just kind of stick to. So I think maybe that's why. I think that record kind of stands out for a lot of people, is just during that time period of music and the genre that we were in, it kind of just stood out and was a little bit more unique. So I think maybe that's why. And I think that's where we kind of found our own sound the most. The first record, we were kind of pulling a lot from bands that we grew up listening to. And then I think after that first record, we kind of felt that we could experiment a little bit more and kind of mess with more sounds and stuff. So
I would say that it definitely has a certain sense of timelessness to it. And I know you were saying that you weren't reinventing the wheel, and it is true that it is essentially just really well-crafted rock music, but it definitely does have a unique and identifiable quality as being Anberlin. Now, when you started out in 2002, did you have a vision for what the sound would be, or did it kind of just evolve?
I did. I think it did just evolve. I mean, the biggest thing is we all played like kind of punk rock before Anberlin in a different band. And so for us, the big change was, we just want to play rock music. We were all into, at the time, we were into like Jimmy Eat World and Third Eye Blind. And so for us, it wasn't about like how can we rip those? It was like, this sounds like kind of the genre that we want to play. And then just over time, I think we just fell into the sound that is Anberlin. Like I said, then we started like, pulling from all over the place, and we weren't just sticking with, a few bands. It was like, oh, let's sound like this. And then we just were kind of open ourselves up to be able to integrate a bunch of different bands and a bunch of different, sounds. So, and that's cool to hear that you feel that way about us. The fact that it's not just, one thing that we've kind of found our own sound. And so for us, that was super important and super exciting when we kind of felt like we hit that spot.
Now, as a drummer, you've got a unique kind of role in the sense of shaping the sound, and I would say you've now developed your own signature style.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
No worries. If there was a drummer out there who's bashing away, driving their neighbors crazy, do you have any advice for them on how they would establish their identity as a musician or as a drummer in this sense?
Totally. Well, first of all, thanks, man. That means a lot. I think that's, that was honestly one of my goals. You know, I grew up listening to all these drummers to where I felt like you could listen and they could play on even other people's records and you could kind of tell it was their signature sound. That didn't mean because they were, super busy or overplayed, but they just had a specific feel and style. So for me, that was really important. I wanted to kind of implement that into Anberlin. But as far as a new drummer, I mean, they can find their sound in a lot of different ways. For me, I was very, very adamant about playing with the music. I love drummers that can kind of add to and not, kind of sit on top of the music or just, whether they're super talented or they just like shredded. To me, that's cool, but it was like, well, how can you like play well with the guitars and bass and vocals and whatever, synth and whatever it is, and kind of add to it and make it sound musical. So for me, that was kind of the goal. So I would say for any drummer that's like trying, I would say find your thing. And not that you have to stick within parameters, but that you can kind of add to whatever band you're playing in and kind of, not take away. I think a lot of drummers at times almost take away because they're more concerned about what crazy fill they can do or how they can show off. And I feel like notoriously drummers are known for wanting to like just shred and show people how sick they are. But instead, the drummers to me that stand out are the ones that can play the perfect thing for that part or for each song. You know what I mean? So that would kind of be the advice I would give.
I think that's definitely sound advice and not something that I initially thought you were going to respond with. So it's excellent to hear.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Now, casual listeners, or at least most of the ones that I know, don't give the drums all that much thought when they're listening to a record. But they absolutely would notice if they weren't there.
Totally. That's very true.
How do you approach composition as a drummer? And is there any Anberlin songs that are built around your beats?
Yeah, absolutely. As I continued to kind of grow as a drummer, I kind of progressed as a musician as well, and I started kind of writing more and more. So that kind of helped my drumming as well because I approached it as like a songwriter opposed to just drums. So towards the end of Anberlin, or I'd say starting with like Darkness Away, I kind of took on a bigger writing role in general, and with each record, I ended up kind of working more across the board as far as the songwriting. But the one to me that I guess would stand out the most is like a song that started with the beat. Is the first song off Vital, Self-Starter. I wrote that song, and it kind of started with that beat, and then the rest kind of followed from that. But that was one that I just had the idea for the beat, and then I wrote it on, and I actually wrote it on like a drum pad or like a keyboard, and I didn't even know. I was like, I think I can play this beat. And then I did it and I wrote it and I sent it to the dudes, and then I was like, well, it kind of turned into a song. So I was like, well, I got to figure out how to play this. So
that's awesome though. Like, I think that's a real sign of a band that has evolved and developed and understands its process. You find some bands where there's a singer or a primary songwriter where they're just not open to suggestion. So the fact that you still write as a team is a really good sign.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's how Anberlin's always been from the very beginning. From the first record, Joey, our guitar player, he wrote the majority of it, and he continued to write throughout the whole career of Anberlin. But towards the end, it really was such a collaborative effort. I mean, we were writing so much more. And yeah, everyone was down as long as it was a cool idea, and that's what was rad is, the way we did things and the way we kind of split money is it wasn't all like relying on one person, which allowed for cool stuff to happen because it wasn't just one person taking, the brunt of it, and everyone could kind of throw in ideas, and that's where a lot of the cool stuff came about.
It's a very good piece of advice for people to remain collaborative in their processes.
Yeah, I mean, and you even see it. I don't know if you watch like that Queen movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, but they even talk about that in that, like when he kind of branches off to do his solo thing, he realized that, you know, the reason why those songs, the Queen songs, were so rad is because everyone was putting their input, and even, or saying, I don't like this, you know what I mean? That's almost just as key as saying, I do like this. Someone saying, yeah, that's not a cool idea. You know what I mean? And obviously there's some incredible solo artists and people that, you know, can don't need a lot of other people, but for Anberlin, it was always about all of us together in a room going, yeah, that's awesome, or that's not awesome, you know?
Absolutely. Now, Anberlin definitely achieved a lot before you bid us farewell in 2014 at some shows that I was at. Now, what do you feel was the biggest challenge you encountered over the time of Anberlin?
Like as a band or like personally or?
Either, however you feel like answering it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of challenges working, you know, all the stuff that I just said that was a positive could also be a really tough thing. You know, working with, you know, 4 other people, all with different opinions, all with different visions of where they think Anberlin should go musically. That was tough. You know, that was a challenge where it's like towards the end of Anberlin, I think it was pretty apparent with our final album, you know, we were all on different pages, and you know that was the most difficult record because everyone had such different visions of where Anberlin should go. You know, should we go more rock? Should we go not? You know, and so everyone kind of had, you know, at that point progressed with where they were musically, personally, and they wanted to kind of implement that into Anberlin, and that I would say that was the thing that makes it the best is also potentially the biggest challenge.
And are you proud of what you did?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so proud. I mean, I think that even the way that we ended with our final year, I just was so proud of everything across the board and how our career was and the decisions that we made. Of course, you know, do you regret certain things? And yes, of course. But overall, as a whole of Anberlin, I'm very, very thankful with our career and as a whole.
That's amazing. Now, I've got 2 quick things to ask you before I let you go today, because we only have a limited time with you. The first one is, as a podcast, we are focused on empowering others to achieve their creative dreams, and we talk to people who've achieved theirs in order to do so. So we're always curious to know what your number 1 tip would be for a person looking to do exactly what you've done and become a Radult.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think for me, it's don't really expect things to happen overnight. You know, don't expect, I think that's sadly the way things are going, where it's like the music industry and everyone wants overnight success. You know, they want to hit single, or they want like the quick, you know, gratification of a song taking off. But for me, it's like, you know, don't undervalue slow growth. Everyone wants everything to be so fast. And I think in this world of fast-paced everything, it's like take your time and decide what your sound is going to be and spend time on it and debate it and talk about if it should be different and how it could be different. And you know, don't really think that it's going to, you know, you're going to write. I mean, that happens for people for sure, and that's fine, but I think that shouldn't be your goal. You know, that it should be taking your time and finding what you want to sound like and what you want to do, and not even just with music, but whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like whatever your passion is, your goal, and to be able to make it. I don't think trying to take the quick route of what's going to be now or what's going to, you know, be the thing. It's like find your style, find your way, and kind of hone it in. And it's okay if it takes a while, and just keep doing it and keep changing. You know, not the first thing you do is going to work. And if it does, cool. But even after that, I would say to keep pushing yourself and progressing and growing and learning.
That's brilliant. Now, the one thing that I have left to ask you is, it's actually a little game we like to play. It's called a Rad Break. And I'm going to play one with you today that I've just invented.
Okay.
It's called the Hot Seat. And basically, it's just if you could take the place of any other drummer on Earth, who would it be and why?
Oh man, that is a good question. Thank you. I mean, he's probably my favorite drummer, and then also because of the things he's continued to do outside of drumming, I would say Dave Grohl, because he's gone on to make the Foo Fighters. and his career is just legendary. So, I mean, not only is his style like one of my favorites, but what he's been able to do as from a drummer to an overall musician is just, to me, next level. And it's also kind of put drummers on the map as far as not just being a drummer. So, yeah, I'd say Dave Grohl for sure.
That's okay. Deep down inside, we all want to be Dave Grohl.
I was about to say that's not a very creative answer, honestly. I think everyone's answer would be Dave Grohl.
All right, Nate. Well, I'll let you get back to your life now. Thanks for taking the time to be on Radults.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really do look forward to singing my lungs out to Day Late Friend one more time. So thanks for coming back down.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, man.
No worries. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Brings us to the end of our Radults Bite with Nate Young of Anberlin. Anberlin will be making their return to Australia for the first time since 2014 later this month. SBM presents this tour, and the dates are as follows. Saturday the 25th of May at Tivoli in Brisbane with special guests Young Lions. Sunday the 26th of May at the Enmore Theatre in Sydney with special guests The Mission in Motion. Wednesday the 29th of May at the Forum in Melbourne with special guests Anna Skeptic. Can't wait for that one. Thursday the 30th of May at HQ in Adelaide with guests Capulet. And Friday the 31st of May at the Metropolis Fremantle in Perth with special guests Laura Dannon. Boy, do I wish I could make it to that show. Limited tickets still remain for some dates, and they can be found at the link that we've left in the episode details. We thank you for joining us today for this Radults Bite, and if you enjoyed what you heard today, we encourage you to follow, like, rate, and share our content. Then go out there and live life a little more Radult.